Salam and good evening to you, ladies, gents and Pikachus, and also blue-haired feminists, who shall be prominently featuring throughout this episode as we look at a treasure trove of gaming, which is Indie Heroes Collection 2 on the Evercade. Upon this cartridge you will find a total of 13 games, a baker's dozen, 12 games which will show when you initially input the cartridge, and a 13th game which you can get through occult hidden means of putting in a code or by completing the 12 visible games. But the game we should be focusing on today is Eyra the Crow Maiden, that one on the right there with the cool graphics. So let's have a little look at the intro. Eyra the Crow Maiden is a platformer game for one player. You take on the role of Eyra, a young priestess of the Cora Horus, as she attempts to rescue the warriors of her tribe from the evil Infernal Marauder. Fight up close and personal with a selection of weapons, or call on your crow friend Nunkamar to hit far off foes. But as they say, the proof is in the tasting of the pudding. So let's taste this pudding, ladies, gents, Pikachus and blue-haired feminists. Let's get started. Oh, I do like that. You can't go wrong in a platformer game to have progressive rock as your background music with some decent droppage. So that's cool, and some nice bright colourful graphics to get us started. So let's start off a new game, get through the intro, learn about the world, and see what this game has in store for us. The barbarian soldiers of the tribe rest by the fire after a long day of hunting. They live in a peaceful land, so their temple city is rarely put in any danger. So what we can tell so far is that even though they're called soldiers and barbarians, these are actually just hunter-gatherers. They don't do any fighting amongst themselves. They live in a peaceful religious colony, and they're virtually defenceless against the Infernal Marauder, who approaches silently by sea with evil intentions during the night. I think the writing's on the wall here. So what happens is the Infernal Marauder enslaves all the men, takes them off in chains and takes them into captivity, leaving only the women of the land, and they will then have to rescue from captivity all the useless lummox men and bring peace back to their lands. Eyra the Crow Maiden seems to be the chosen warrior to be sent against the Infernal Marauder, and we can tell this because she's getting some kind of a religious blessing from the deity who has crows behind him. And then we are off to start the game. So first order of the day, check out the controls. Oh, that's weird. The button you expect is going to be jump is actually crow attack. The button you expect that's going to be crow attack is jump. And then the button on the right is attack. And those are your three buttons. You've got jump, you've got attack, you've got crow. You can duck by pressing down on the directional pad, and you can walk left and right. Unfortunately, there's no sprint button. That's a shame. I thought the spare button on the four face buttons was going to be a sprint button, because you do walk rather slowly, so Eyra is just a casual player. That's the message I'm getting. We're a very slow walking person, but we have a ranged attack, so perhaps this is not going to be a combat focused game. The game is going to be focused on rescuing your tribe and using your crow to pick up things, money and other weapons, and avoiding death by spikes, which you can see there. I like that they've put spears in the holes to say don't jump down this hole because you will be speared. Oh, there's some holes without spikes in it. No, I'm not that stupid, they'll still kill me. There you go. No secrets to be found, you will die if you jump down the non-spiked holes. I'm not going to be as harsh as I could be, but I could say you're losing points for that, Eyra, because you've tricked me once already by making out that the holes with spikes are bad, but the holes without spikes contain secrets. Either have spikes in all the holes or have no spikes. Consistency, it means a lot to people with logic. You know, sensible gamers, we don't want to die, but we do want to find secrets. So, initial thoughts about this game. It's not too bad. The graphics are nice, the sound is good, but I mean the music is a little bit repetitive. Like I thought it might have a few more than 2 bars, It's just 2 bars and they just repeat over and over. And from what I can tell, when you've killed something and you go off screen, as soon as you go back to that area, it will have respawned. So the undead enemies are unkillable. You can only temporarily remove them from the world so that you can get past them. So the impression I'm getting from this game is combat's not a big thing. You don't have to kill all the enemies. There's no particular benefit to be gained from killing all the enemies. So what you want to do is rescue the Lummox men like this one here. There you go, Lummox man. He doesn't talk, he hasn't got a weapon, doesn't do anything. He's pretty useless. Go home, useless man. Go and make me some dinner. Goddamn useless man. Who likes men these days? See, there's me proving that and demonstrating that men are useless by jumping down a hole. And what you will find is because you walk so slowly, when you jump, you're only going to cover 2 spaces. It's not a long jump at all. Unless you go right to the end of the platform, and then you'll be able to reach just the very edge of the 3rd block. So you can jump 3 blocks if you're very careful, but 2 blocks is your usual jump space. See there, I was trying to hit to see if I can hit the projectiles out the screen, but I accidentally jumped and hit into the projectile and then jumped down a hole. So let's see if we can change the controls. See, that tells you something. They've got an options menu specifically to reset the controls. So they did have a clue. They did know that these controls are inhumane. These controls are so awkward and sadistic that the first order of play is going to be to change them to something a little more sensible. And straight away we can see, with the controls corrected, it's much easier to play this game. But I know now not to kill all the enemies. Oh my good god, how punishing is that hitbox? Don't go anywhere near the enemies, because even if you don't actually hit them, you will lose a bar of health by hitting into their hitbox, which is very, very... I don't want to slag it off too much, but it's a little bit amateurish, isn't it? Like, come on, you got the graphics, you got the sound, you can do a good hitbox. But anyway, we rescue another Lummox useless man and send him back to the tribe. He just stands there like an idiot. So the enemies in this game, you have your standard skeleton, you have your projectile skeleton. I guess you're going to have your up and down flying skeleton, and you're going to have your appearing and disappearing skeleton. But we're not going to find that out until we end this tutorial level. There's another Lummox useless man to rescue. There is a counter. You can see a counter in the middle of the bar at the bottom there. We've got 2 out of 6 Lummox useless men left to rescue. Presumably there will be some kind of reward to be gained by rescuing all of the Lummox useless men. Okay, you're losing points for that. Eyra, here's a little tip. If you're going to give me a duck control button, please make sure that projectiles go over my head when I duck, and I don't duck straight into their pathway like I did just then. So note to self, you can't sprint, so your jumps are going to be extremely limited in range, and the duck is a trick. If you duck, you are ducking into the path of the projectile, not out of its way. I'm getting a bit... This is a very frustrating game for someone like me to try and play, because there's no sprint key, and the placement of the enemies is such that there's no way to get past them before they shoot the projectile. You have to wait until they've shot the projectile and it's past you, and then go for them. So it's like a bit more of a tactical approach you need to take. You can't just run and jump through it. You can't jump on the enemies' heads to kill them, and you can't hit the projectiles out the air. Let's kill that guy. Rescue another Lummox useless man. Go and put the kettle on for me, mate. I'll be back before tea once I've rescued the rest of you useless Lummox men and returned peace to the land. Maybe you'll learn then that women are the superior sex. Ah, there we go, we got our floating skeleton. Scratch that on the bingo card, floating skeleton. Oh, I nearly did it again there. Nope, the duck is a trick. You cannot duck under projectiles. You have to wait. So I've rescued 3 of the 6 useless Lummox men. And I feel like we must be getting near the end of the level now, because we've been playing this for quite some time. Although the slow walking speed does make the levels seem longer than they really are. They're not actually... If this was Mario and I was pressing sprint, I would have finished this level long ago. Notice as well, I can't drop down. There's no way to drop down from a platform because it puts me back on the platform. You have to literally fall off the platform completely and then turn around and try and go. So there's going to be a lot of backtracking in this game. If, like me, you are a 100% completism kind of dude or woman, in order for you to do your 100% completism, you're going to be backtracking an awful lot, and that invariably means killing a lot of the same enemies again and again. But it's going to be worth it so you can rescue all the useless Lummox men and you can collect all the coins and the weapon upgrades. But it does mean it's somewhat frustrating if you're the kind of person who wants to perfect the level. You know, you want to run through it, kill everything, collect everything in a speedrunner kind of fashion. This ain't your game. You are not going to enjoy backtracking and being ponderous and careful with your jumps and avoiding the perilously large hitboxes on these enemies. And so we complete the first screen. So hopefully that's the tutorial screen done with, and this one will present a little bit more of a challenge to us. Rescue another Lummox man. So it seems like there are 6 Lummox useless men on each screen for you to rescue. Although it doesn't seem like you're rewarded for getting all 6 of them like I did on that last screen. I think also the placement of the crows is trying to tell me something. It's like if you follow the crows, you will find the useless Lummox men. So the crows are like markers to tell you where to go. If you don't follow those, you'll get an easier pathway through the level, but you will not be able to rescue any of the useless Lummox men. Which seems to be the point of the game. If you think about it, that's exactly why you were given the blessing, so you can go and rescue all the useless Lummox men. Once again, the duck button's useless. Oh, that is frustrating. And the regenerating dead enemies will regenerate. So, initial thoughts on this game is, it's not the worst game ever. It's not terrible by any stretch of the word. There are good things about this game. But it loses points for having very sadistically styled awkward controls. Being ponderous at best, like the walking speed is very slow, which means the jumps don't go far enough. And the amount of backtracking is made even worse by the presence of regenerating skeletal enemies. Also, I'm finding the crow attack is kind of redundant. It doesn't actually do anything more than your normal weapon does, especially once you've upgraded to the axe. When you've got the axe and you've got a good range on your weapon, the crow attack is effectively just a waste of resources, so I'm saving those up for a possible boss fight. To backtrack because I missed. The crow is telling me that there's a man up there to be rescued, a useless Lummox man, which I missed, but obviously the crow didn't appear until I'd already got underneath the bridge bit, so I didn't know that I was going to have to backtrack. I feel like this game required a little bit more playtesting. There's a lack of polish here. Yeah, definite lack of polish, which some playtesting could have alerted them to. They could have sped up the walking speed or added a sprint key. They could have made it so that you should do less backtracking, or that you could just drop down from a platform, then there wouldn't be so much need for the backtracking, and obviously made the controls slightly less awkward. But I feel we're progressing well now. We've collected lots of money, lots of sweeties, and we are almost to the end of this second screen. I've missed something, haven't I? Well, oh, there was no... Okay, so maybe the crows don't tell you where the rescued Lummox useless men are. They're just randomly placed, because that one and the one up top, they didn't lead to anything. This one hasn't led to anything. So maybe the crows are just something extra that they wanted to add to give it a bit more crow flavouring. Which, I suppose, is necessary, because the crow doesn't do a lot. Rescue another useless Lummox man. Yeah, the crows, it's kind of a bit underwhelming how they've used the crows in this game. You have to kill them with your sword in order to collect them, and then your crow attack does nothing. It doesn't do anything the normal attack doesn't do. In fact, you know what I'm thinking? Eyra the Boomerang Maiden would have been just as easily made for this game, because the crow is like a boomerang. You throw it, it does a 2 space forward attack, it comes back 2 spaces, and even if you jump out the way, it disappears and goes back into your inventory. And finally, we've reached the end of the tutorial section. We're on the more difficult section here, and I feel like the difficulty curve has sloped up rather perilously high. Immediately we are faced with 8 consecutive difficult jumps with enemies and a projectile enemy, and I managed to lose 2 out of my 3 bars of health there, so it is very difficult. I feel like as a child's game this is going to be extremely challenging for them, but as an adult game it's probably not going to be challenging enough. So perhaps the goal of the developers of this game is to make a parent and child game. Perhaps the mum can sit with the child, play through the game, and when they get frustrated and go, "Yeah, the controls are crap, I don't like this game," they can go, "It's just a case of learning patience, my dear," and then the mum can take over, having pre-learned the set patterns of the levels, and show the child how it's done. Therefore, dominating the child enough to get some knowledge into their young head through demonstration. Oh, good God. So that's me, dead. I've used all my lives. I died 8 times there. Every single death was a misstep, falling down a hole, apart from one time, in which I was killed by a projectile, which I tried to duck underneath. So, yeah, I don't think we'll continue. I think that's the end of this playthrough. So, final thoughts on this game. I have to try and be generous. It's not the worst thing ever. It's not a terrible game by any means. But I will say this, there are far better and more fun platformers on this platform. Alba's Awakening, that I have previously reviewed, is absolutely a much better game than this. This game suffers from a lack of polish. The control scheme leaves a lot to be desired. The lack of the useful duck, ducking doesn't avoid things, and the crow attack is kind of meaningless. So yeah, I think we'll end the video there. That's all I need to see from this game. It's not as good as I thought it was going to be, while not being terrible. It's underwhelming. So, in conclusion, what do I think of Eyra the Crow Maiden? Well, like I said, it's not exactly an overwhelmingly good game. I would say it's got its finer points. It's above average, it's not bad in any way. But I just don't know who they're targeting with this game. It's not the kind of game you would give young children, because it's frustrating and it is difficult to play, plus the controls need to be reset. Even the intro, it's just a bit long-winded. I don't feel like kids will particularly enjoy this game, but it's definitely not a game made for adults. It's not difficult enough, and there's just not enough variety in the gameplay. So what I would say is it suffers from that lack of polish that I mentioned earlier. With a little bit more development time, I feel this could have been a much better game. The potential was there. The nuts and bolts, the bones of the concept were really good. I like the idea of having a scantily clad priestess, Eyra the Crow Maiden, with her crow pet, going up against the Infernal Marauder, who is a good enemy. He's a decent styling of an enemy to go up against. But the game is let down by being a little bit repetitive and just not having enough to really grab your attention to keep you wanting to drive forward within the game. So I think 5 out of 10 is going to be the final fun score for this game. It's not really that good or really that bad. It's kind of an average kind of game. So I'm glad I've got the cartridge. Indie Heroes 2, definitely a good game cartridge to have. There's other better games on there. But in terms of this game, probably not one you're going to play too much of. So that brings us to the end of our review. In conclusion, do I think you should buy Indie Heroes Collection 2? Yes. And I will be reviewing the better games on that cartridge in the future. But do I think Eyra the Crow Hero is going to be one of the games you go back to? Definitely not. It just wasn't up to standard for me, and it's probably not a game that I'm ever going to try and play again. So that's the end of this review. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. So 5 out of 10 for Eyra the Boomerang Maiden. That's all for now. Look out for Micro Mages. I'm going to review that next week. So enjoy yourselves. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Bye bye.